This topic of South monsoon is very dear to Shukla, and as you have read in the biographical sketch, he actually started his career in monsoon, did his thesis at MIT on monsoon, and has continued to enrich our understanding of monsoon prediction, monsoon predictability, variability, and the dynamics. So fittingly, to start with this session, we have Peter Webster from Georgia Tech, another prominent leader in the monsoon field, and who has also known Shukla for a very long time. And together they have actually given us a great understanding of the monsoon. So Peter is going to talk about 70 years of monsoons and Shukla. Peter.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure, of course, to once again be with Shukla. We haven't been together quite for 70 years, but it sometimes seems that way. I was just saying to Mark Kane that all of us together collectively, we've been around a long time, and we're probably 5 standard deviations together longer than most marriages. So, I'd like to point to one of my co-authors, Sebastian Ortega. And Sebastian is a very special young man. He's also my 6th PhD student from Columbia, and they've all done very well. And strangely, most of them have gone back to Columbia, which is a rare thing for foreign students. I'm sort of echoing here. So this is Shukla. You might recognize him, taken some time ago. And this is a picture when some of us were a little younger. That's Kutner next to me, and John Young. Shukla, of course, and Krishnamurti from Florida State. This is a picture taken in the Cascades a long time ago. Of course, this is Shukla and Michael McIntyre, our old friend, past Jim, and of course, Tim Palmer. And here we are. We went on a hike organized by Mike Wallace, who took us up the wrong mountain first, and eventually got to the top of this one. Eugenia mentioned shorts, and I think Shukla was with borrowed shorts because he didn't have any, and you can't see, but he's wearing shiny black shoes and black socks. He wasn't ready for the hike. And here's a more recent picture of Shukla and Bob Howes and myself. And here's at a Clivar meeting, I think it was chairman of Clivar or something like that. And you can recognize a lot of people, including Bill Lau, who was my, so much for that. There we are. Bill Lau, who was my first student a long time ago, and other people. I'm seeming to be frozen. Why am I frozen? Here we are. Then there was a famous visit to Shukla's village, and we're all welcomed, and down this road is Shukla's village, and we've met Shukla's family, which is a marvelous treat, and I must say that this is probably the best food I've ever had in my life, and as Shukla says, it's from garden to kitchen in about 5 minutes. And so some of us were very excited, and villages do that to some people. Of course, Susie and Mike spend a lot of time in the village now, and she's very enthusiastic. But not all of us were enthusiastic. Some of us were absolutely terrified. This elephant didn't like me, and anyhow. So what I'm going to do is talk about, for 70 years, there's been a consistency. One of the consistencies has been that the IMD hasn't changed much over 70 years, but I promised myself I wouldn't get into that. So normally one thinks of monsoons as invoked by cross-equatorial pressure gradient and ocean-land differences, and this goes back, of course, to Halley-Adler rotation, and that's what you get. And then Flown and Molnar have argued that the elevated heat source is very important. There's a little bit of controversy there, but I won't get into that today. But there's sort of been a little bit of a paradigm shift. It goes back to what I consider to be a marvelous paper by Plum and Ho on mean circulations, that as you move further and further away from the equator, the amplitude of the heating has to get larger. For example, you don't get a monsoon over the desert regions where you have the maximum precipitation in the South Asian region. It's a desert on all latitudes, east and west. So something happens, and it's probably the monsoon. Now, then Chow and Chen came up with the idea, they had the origins of the monsoon. They said, look, there's nothing special about a monsoon. The migration of the ITCZ is actually a monsoon, and it's influenced by the continents. And so we've argued that the ITZ has an equilibrium latitude, which is given by where stretching deformation, where vorticity stretching and advection of potential vorticity equals. More recently, though, Bodoni and Schneider came up with the idea that the influence of exotropics was very, very large on the monsoon. And I thought, oh, this can't be right, because I had this old classical Haley view. So let's see what happens with that. Well, there are three major timescales, and I'm following Mike. Every timescale has to have a picture of Shukla, and we have the mean circulation, elevated heat source, and it turns out that the vortex so produced is unstable. This is Hugh and Plum showed that in 2000. There's the intraseasonal active break sequence. I believe that's a consequence of the instability. I won't have time to talk about that today. I'm going to spend more time talking about the 10-day variability, which is the influence of extratropical waves, or is it the instability of the vortex? And you can see here, oops, I did it again. You can see here that this is the intraseasonal variability, but look at the strong variability on the 10-day timescales in each of these locations. Never touch. Here we go. So, quickly to argue about the role of the Tibetan Plateau Himalayas. This is the mean upper tropospheric temperature during the summertime, our summertime, and these are the cross sections of geopotential. And you can see that the geopotential surfaces are warped very, very highly over the regions of the mountains and depressed in the lower levels, giving you a meridional circulation. It doesn't occur, of course, when you look in the Australian region. There's hardly any change at all. And also there's a humidity. There's sometimes one refers to the Himalayan Tibetan Plateau region as the water tower, or the third pole, all types of exotic things. And we're going to see here this very, very large anomaly between 500 and 300 hectopascals in moisture. When you look at the cross sections of data, this is 10 degrees north, 20, 30, and 40, and this goes from March through August, and you can see the warming, especially over the plateau region, is very substantial. And you can argue, and Molnar and Emanuel showed how the elevated heat source works, and in fact, when you look at the annual cycle of heat fluxes over the Tibetan Plateau, they're almost equal to what occurs 1,500 meters lower in the plains. So we finish up with an elevated heat source. And Molnar used the Ho-Plum argument to show that it was sufficiently strong to force a meridional circulation. So this is the type of things that one gets with the active and break sequences, which I won't talk much about, except to say that I want you to remember the locations of these great bands of activity. So the blue is the negative OLR, meaning, of course, that you have convection. You can see it moving further and further north here. And do it in cross-section form, and you finish up with this migration. And maybe if I have 1 minute at the end, I'll pose a theory for you. And you can see these things moving up, and how important the Himalayas and the Tibetan Plateau seems to be in the maneuvering of these convections. So when you look at go back now to the shorter term, when you look at the average wavelet spectra from TRIM, you can see here this very broad 10-day period. And where does that come from? And here, by the way, to make Mike happy, is our diurnal variability. And here you can see now through one particular sequence, this dashed line is the intraseasonal, and this is the 10 to 20 day, or 5 to 20 day, I should say, band. You can see that has been nicely enveloped, if you'd like, by the intraseasonal. So here's, we have to go one extra Shukla here. We have the time scale, which is the diurnal variability. But you can see the broad movements north. You can see, actually, if you look very carefully, the longer period waves moving through here. So let's have a look now at what happens this is now the 370K IPV, and you can see the date there. We're now in February. I want you to concentrate in this square here and see what happens. You see all types of Rossby waves in the extratropics, but now start to watch this vortex form here, this anticyclonic vortex. And so this is going to turn out to be rather special. It's going to last all summer, and it's going to be manifested in the mean fields. But now see these streamers moving through here. And I will argue that these high upper tropospheric streamers are indicative of all types of disturbances moving through. Now, I won't show you that again. This is the type of thing that you can now in Colorado. It's legal to put this up on a big screen and say, hey man, that looks really good. So what we have is this is the 320-day variance maximum here, and this is the vortex you can see. Can you see? Yeah. And this is the 1,500 meter elevated plateau. So one question is inertial symmetric instability barotropic? How is the vortex manifest? And if I had a lot of time, I'd go through a whole heap of exercises that Sebastian has done. So what one can do is look particularly at the change of sign of the potential vorticity as a function of attitude. And you can see here, by the way, this is now a snapshot. You can see these things, these streamers moving through, and you can see here that there's a reversal. I can show you that much nicer in a minute. So this is according to Hsu and Plum, unstable, and this is the gradient of potential vorticity. It's done as a PDF where you take out all the transients and put them in here. And so how is this variability manifested? And what I'm going to show you is we're going to look at the events moving through this particular region. And you can see here there are a number of them. It's one standard deviation. And these are all the events moving through the anticyclonic vorticity. And watch now, you see the little red arrow. Here comes the streamer moving through. And they are associated with low-level fields. Now I'm going to show you what this looks like in terms of the 850 millibars, and you can see that we have anticyclones and cyclones moving through. So associated with this great gyre is a new sort of paradigm of the monsoon, if you'd like, because it's an unstable system. It looks very much like you're getting Rossby waves from extratropics moving through, but indeed what they're doing is probably a manifestation of the instability of the vortex. So what we can do is define a cross-section through here, and we're going to look at the vertical distribution of these things. And so this here is the IPV, and this is precipitation in millimeters per day. And so we're just going to move through these, and you're going to see, moving along towards south of India now, that these disturbances are moving through. You can see up here the IPV perturbation. So what we have then, that Rossby wave breaking events over the Pacific Ridge precede events of high potential vorticity over India. The monsoon anticyclone affects these upper level PV anomalies around its boundary, and you get the westward component of the which is something that I think has troubled people for a long time, the sudden westward propagation of synoptic modes. But 10-day timescales, and these are significantly correlated between the upper troposphere and the lower moisture fields. So we have a couple of things: constitutes tropical extratropical interaction, or is it really just the instability of the vortex, so formed by the high level heating over? What I didn't point out, by the way, this is the only region on the planet where you get the closed IPV circulation. You go further east to the Rockies, and you get a ridge, but you don't get this closed circulation. Okay, what else do I want to say? it maybe help us understand and therefore predict. A lot of remaining questions. What mechanisms control the breakdown of the vortex? And the interesting thing too, you might notice when I showed you pictures of Q as a function of Y, it's almost as though you have a perpetual instability, that something is maintaining the negative gradient. And I would argue that's the vortex, which is being forced continually by the Himalayan distribution and also the cooler oceans to the south. Okay. Sebastian has a theory, it's about 10 seconds, Mr. Chairman. He has a theory of the active break sequences, which we noticed was sort of a circulation which moved through back and forward. And so his argument is that, well, thanks. His idea is that this circulation here is like the Thomas Webster theory of where you have your location of your maximum ITCZ given by the cross-equatorial pressure gradient and the balance between the stretching and your advection across the equator. And that's one solution. The second solution is the solution given by the Ho plum, where you have very, very strong heating due to the elevated heat source, and you get some type of oscillation between. And it's sort of like there are two attractors, if you'd like, and one is moving back and forward. This remains a theory, by the way, but I think it's a nice schematic, if nothing else. So, thank you very much.
So, question? Peter?
Oh, I have to add one thing, that Brian gave a marvelous talk, the Björknes lecture at the AGU, and he referred to the big vortex as the great yellow eye, I think, and it was a red eye in your colour scheme, Brian.
Yellow spot.
It's fun.
Yes, yellow spot.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So Peter, that was very interesting. So in regard to the active and break,
Yeah.
is this an argument that if you're just claiming it's two parts of an attract,
Yep.
then does that mean the northward propagation is illusion, or is it simply, so you're basically seeing two phases of a seesaw and just rapidly propagate?
That's a very good point, and you do see it if you look at the active and break sequence in composite form. You get a nice propagation.
Right.
Whether or not you get that all the time or it's a jump from case to case looks more jumpy, and I think it just might be the statistics of doing a composite which makes it look like it travels.
Peter, thanks for the talk. And as you say, we've been working on this as well. In terms of actually getting a signal down from 370K in the tropics, the vertical scale of that wouldn't be very deep.
It's very
and
difficult.
so you really need to, the convection will have to be very sensitive to what's happening in the upper troposphere in order for that linkage to work.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Brian. But it seems to hang together from observations. So,
It's convection dynamics link again.
Yeah.
Peter, quite a long time ago, we actually looked at this in terms of strat-trop exchange, and again looked at the sort of PV dynamics of that anticyclone and how air is brought round it as part of sort of how you can do isotropic exchange between the troposphere and the stratosphere, particularly water vapour. And so it's, at that time, I don't think we thought about whether in fact these filaments that came round, if you do this IPV analysis, this was Antje Detolf who did this work with Alan O'Neill and myself, 10, 15, I can't remember. But the point is that there is a very interesting interaction there for water vapour through the middle world, if you like, of the sloping tropopause on the poleward side of the anticyclone. We didn't look to sort of see whether, in fact, as you propose, there might be, as these filaments come round equatorward, whether they are in fact actually triggering things. But it's a very interesting idea, and I think it's well worth looking at.
It's
And of course,
some-
models won't be able to do that because these are sort of pretty high resolution filamentary structures we're looking at.
Yeah. It's big, and it seems to be well correlated with the lower tropospheric water vapor transports. And,
I think it is something the model should do because the PV will actually have its influence larger than the scale of the PV minimum. And so advecting that tongue round is something that even idealized primitive equation models actually do. So I think it's the question of the instability that might be difficult to handle and the linkage with the lower levels. But I think the models should all get it.
yes, yeah, good. Thank you. Oh. I keep trying to escape.
So those filaments going around the Tibetan High region, is there any timing in relation to the monsoon onset and also early and late monsoon in terms of its frequency and also intensity?
It's interesting. I know we haven't looked at that, and we should. But the paper by Tapir, Schneider, and Marino do note the onset is strongly tied to what they refer to as extratropical influences. And so maybe they're seeing the first of the be they wave breaking or the instabilities. And remember too that to the east of that anticyclone is a big trough, an IPV trough. And so it's very easy for extratropical things to move into that region. And very easy in a sense for them to move right along the
That
equator.
would be very different thinking from traditional thinking, where you think all the monsoon processes are being determined by the low level moisture.
Yes,
And the Somali
yeah.
jet. Now you're talking about upper level.
I said it's maybe a paradigm shift, maybe the wrong one.
Yeah, I think we should thank Peter again. Thank you, Peter.